Welcome to the Mischief. I'm Valen, and this is Embers Rekindled. Today we're going to be covering a whole bunch of how you can improve your Ember power production, store it more efficiently, as well as move around some fluids. So let's start things off with the mechanical pump. This is actually going to be really useful for powering your pressure refinery. This will start off with some simple materials, just a bunch of iron and some fluid pipes, a little bit of caminite in there as well. And of course your pressure refinery, which you will need to have a mechanical pump supplying with water, is going to be iron, copper, and dawnstone, which we made in the last episode. Now, a mechanical pump is best described as a water pump, and you just need to have it above an infinite water source. In this case, I've got 4 water blocks here that are currently, water blocks in Minecraft, so it will infinitely pump water up with power, of course. You need ember power in this case. I'm going to get rid of this so that I don't have that in place. As usual, I have a fluid extractor plus a pipe, and I have kind of like a backup tank, a bit of a fluid vessel, so that I can have some left over in case that I need to start this up, because a pressure refinery in this case is going to need water pumped into it for it to actually function. But it doesn't just get placed down and work like the old the Ember activator did. Instead, you need to have several other supplies and not just water coming into this. So let's start with a bit of the setup of that, and then we'll kind of go back and forth with these two. They're gonna be like entwined, so it's not just one and then the other. Now in this case, I have a little bit of some netherrack. Now you don't need netherrack. You can get away with lava, but alternately you can use this. And I'm just going to do this because it's simplest to explain, and I like the fiery effect. I used lava in my original Embers one, so let's use fire this time. Now I have water source coming in from over here. Eventually I still will need to pump some ember into that, or ember energy as it is, but for now I'm putting down a block of silver. Now if you look up your pressure refinery, you can see it's got a production multiplier on the production multiplier tab. This is the JEI mod, and it tells you the different kinds of results that you're going to get. You'll probably see, block of lead gives me 2.62 times the regular amount that I would get from an ember activator. Ooh, I can make my ember crystals last a lot longer now. And that is definitely the case with something like iron or lead. For probably the second best ones, your top ones are going to be actually not copper, but I will say silver and gold. Because if you use copper, and I did test this, whether you've got fire or lava surrounding the copper, even if it's waxed, not if it's waxed, but it will start to corrode, and then it will lose its potency over time until it eventually just drops down to 1.5. And at that point, you might as well just kind of skip it. And if you wax it, you're not even going to get 1.5. So the copper is not worthwhile unless it's just a temporary one until you can process some quick metals. But silver and gold are going to get you a 3 times output of ember for your ember energy by your pressure refinery. And in this case, I'm putting down a block of silver because it's in embers. So as a reminder, most of these machines, if you are looking at them with either ashen goggles or the Tinker's lens, will tell you what is happening with most of the blocks that you look at. And in this case, you can see a machine accessor slot. In this case, I'm going to say that you can actually use mechanical cores to extend this. So if you want, you can have different things coming out. So this is now extended out into this and gives me a few more facings to work with. And in this case, I'm just going to put the rest of the fluid pipe going over here, which will still feed into this one. But you notice items also need to go in. So now I can also add in a hopper, for example, on the side, or some kind of item pump going in there, so that I can grab a bunch of ember crystals and drop them in. There we go. I've got a whole bunch, and they're already being fed in to the machine. You don't really see them in here. This is going to be the output for once it's actually actively running. So don't forget, this is going to be producing ember energy. So you're probably going to want some kind of emitters coming out of it at regular intervals. In this case, I'm going to probably have them up on top and on the side, so I can put a couple with one lever between them, and thus going into whatever machinery I want. And in this case, I currently have a fluid pipe coming in, no fluids yet, and I have the ember coming in, which is fine. That has fed the entire stack into the machine. and it's ready for Ember to come out, provided that I just get one more thing, and that's water. Now here's the catch in this, is that you can't start processing until you have water actually running to it. What I'm going to recommend is that you kind of, well, you cheat a little bit. You end up doing a little bit of manual labor, and it'll get you there a little bit quicker. Now in this case, this does run on Ember, so it will be needed. And I will take this and go here, so it is keeping this powered. For temporary means, I'm also going to have a copper cell being over here, and that is going to be supplied with some of this other power that's coming out. And with this being ready to accept power on the back side here from this activator, but yet not able to start with water, if you grab some water and just start pumping it yourself, there we go. I just kind of manually filled this up for now, and this is just going to be like a bit of a buffer, but we'll start with that. The water's going in. I'm going to start with this because as soon as it starts getting power, it will start pumping. Now it is a relatively slow process, but it will work over time. You can have multiples of these if you want and have them split and stuff, which actually I might go into that shortly, but you can see that we're already getting a bunch of Ember from this, and it's giving us 3 times the output that we normally would because it's sitting on top of a silver block. And you can see that the water is already backing up. I have more than enough in here, and this is just going to ensure that if this runs out of power, I still have some fluid in here, provided that it is pumping faster than this is actually using it. So let's introduce the beam splitter. This is going to allow me, with the Dawnstone ingot, some copper, and a bunch of iron, to actively just kind of split one beam into 2. So if I put this here, I can then use my Tinker's Hammer, and I can say, okay, this one, instead of going over to that, I'm going to want it to go here, which then can be split into multiple spots. You notice it has one, like 2 small sides, 2 big sides. Basically, it has inlets and outlets. This is an innie, that's an outie. That's pretty much it. So I can say, all right, this one, which acts very much like an Ember emitter, can then be rotated to another spot. So I can have 2 of these going over there. And then the other side can go in a different direction, thus splitting it. Because this doesn't need all of that power, it just needs a little bit for it to run. So I might as well store the excess and just have enough that is keeping this machine running comfortably. So that's the advantage of a beam splitter, is that you can have 1 turn into 2 without having to kind of gum up the works with more mechanical cores or just pumping on here a whole bunch of Ember emitters. Now it will split the output in half from here, so that is something to keep in mind. Okay, so this this copper cell is really pathetic, and in fact I'm going to kind of remove it overall. Let's put down this so that I have something to set this on, and we're going to have a big boy brought in, the crystal cell. This is made with some Ember crystals, a bunch of Dawnstone, and some copper, just to make it really kind of pretty. Now this is it in its baby phase. It can accept machine accessors like the on the bottom slot here like before, but I'm going to remove this. It's no longer there. These are going to stop actually shooting anything over here now that they've, you know, it's finished there. But the splitter is still going to try splitting things off. And you'll keep in mind here that it's still trying to shoot things to where it was. So you might have to tell it, okay, you know what? Let's have both of these go over to the same spot so that you don't end up wasting any of your Ember. But with this in place, this can accept more Ember. And by Ember, I don't mean the energy, I mean the Ember crystals. In this case, about 58 Ember crystals will get you to max this thing out. You're going to want some way of getting the items in there, whether it be item pumps or with a hopper. In this case, I'm just going to dump those in there, and you'll notice it starts getting really big. Makes a really cool sound, and it's eating those and will end up maxing out at 1.44 million Ember, I believe, is the maximum. But if you keep on pumping in more of these Ember crystals, it will still keep going without actually getting any bigger. For example, let's put this on here, and what that did is it increased the maximum that it can hold. Normally it will only hold 64,000. Now it's at 1.44 million. Having added that in there, if I put any more of these Ember crystals in here, It will still eat them up, but it will not increase the maximum at all. And now you have a very effective way of storing Ember energy. This is going to not be portable though, so you could always charge up a bunch of copper cells from it if you really need to have some of this portable. Otherwise, you'll just want to use some of your different ways of moving things around that you normally would. Speaking of moving things around, let's talk about the Ember Ejector and the Ember Funnel. Now there is also an Ember Injector, but that is going to be completely different and used much later. But the Ember Ejector is a dawnstone plate wrapped around an Ember emitter with an iron ingot. The Ember Funnel is a bunch of dawnstone plates kind of making a funnel shape around an Ember receptor. And I think because of the ingredients that these require, you're getting the idea that this is just a bigger, chunkier version of an Ember emitter, and this is just a bigger, chunkier version of an Ember receptor. Now they look a bit funky, but they work quite well. You do have to be aware though that when you start using Ember Ejectors, you have a chance of getting a bit of lag, or at least in my experience that's the case. I find that a whole bunch more Ember emitters is not quite as bad, but maybe it's just something, a little glitch in the current version of the mod that I am running. I'm unsure. Either way, I'm going to put a lever up here. I have one of these Ember Ejectors. I'm going to turn that on, and we're going to link this to our new Ember Funnel. There we go. And it will start shooting out a whole bunch more. In fact, going in quite a bit into this. Now if I have this one also splitting off here, going over there, and I turn this one off, you'll start seeing that with the single amount, and it is a split beam as well, we're only getting like 20 at a time. Usually it's 40 at a time, but turning this on, you were seeing before, we were getting like 10 times that. So it's considerably faster. So it's kind of the equivalent of getting about 10 of these. Now, do you have to have these on your machines? Not necessarily. Quite often, the Ember emitter is very efficient and effective at just getting the energy around. If you need to move a lot of energy quickly, though, this is definitely going to be your go-to. Now we're going to be covering one more thing here, and that's going to be the Ember Siphon. This requires a bit of Caminite, silver, and copper. This, when placed underneath one of these copper chargers like so, will allow you to kind of reverse the flow of a copper charger. In this case, let's take an Ember receptor here, and I'm going to put this on top, which is where I had it before with the other ones, but you can also have, if you notice on this side, it will also accept an Ember emitter. Or if you really want an Ember ejector, but in this case I'm just going to go with an Ember emitter. Going to add in, of course, the lever. I'm going to hook this up to here so that it goes to that location, and in this case it'll reverse the flow. So if I have something that is charged, I can actually have it drained, and it will then take it and you can store it elsewhere. So you can fill or drain these as you'd like. But that's only if one of these Ember Siphons is attached to it. So you're probably going to want to have a couple copper chargers, one for draining and one for not draining. Here's the other thing you should be aware of. If you think, all right, well, I'll just shut the lever off and I'll have some Ember power being piped into this. Well, if you notice, it still doesn't have any Ember in it, even though that's happening. And I know that there's some going in, but where's it going? It's going into the Ember Siphon, because it's just pretty much going to drain things off of it. Now you might think, all right, well, what if it's already full? Then is it going to charge it? Still, no. You'll have to move either the copper charger or the Ember Siphon. And as an added bonus, yes, you can also pump out of the Ember Siphon as well with Ember emitters. It's not a problem. And that should do it for this video for today. We're going to keep it kind of short because next time we're getting into beam cannons. That's going to be a bit of a trial, but it'll be a lot of fun because you can destroy so many things with it. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like it, please be sure to give a like, comment, subscribe, and as always, be sure to stop by on Twitch because we stream there regularly. Till next time, folks, I'll see ya.